Okay, it's July 3rd, 2020, and the time is just a few minutes after midnight, which is the time it was about a year ago when I was out here and I was just laying on the floor of this trailer, no lights on, and a car stopped in front of my house, and this woman who resembles very much a woman I saw on TV. She stopped in front of my house and got out and looked at her phone and so on. And I measured the next day the distance. It was 31 feet away from where I was laying on the floor. Okay, now, what I'm thinking about is uh, how I met my concentration camp survivor friend without breaking any laws. Now, the first time, she was a married woman, but I have since decided that she was not married in Judaism where it counted. Okay? She may have been married by a justice of the peace, which I believe she told me that was the way she married. However, I've learned, like 50 years later, that for Jews, a marriage like that does not count. You are not married unless you're married by a rabbi or in a marriage that's given the okay by a rabbi, okay? Accepted by a rabbi. Okay? Otherwise, you're not married. So I gotta say, I thought she was married because she was wearing a wedding ring and all. She was not married. So although at the time I thought, well, I'm gonna have sex with a married woman, I wasn't. She was not married. I'm gonna make that point. Now, the first time I tried to meet her outside of work, okay, was I got on a bus and I was riding that bus out to her apartment. Now, as I was riding past the District of Columbia line into Maryland, I was thinking to myself, it's like I got past, well, I was getting into my first suburb. I don't want to say where she lived. I was thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing? My God, because I was thinking to myself, I was not thinking about having an affair with this woman. I wasn't. I was thinking about being friends with her. I was not thinking about. Well, let's face it, she was 27 years older and she wasn't the least bit attractive. Okay, here comes a car down our street, and the time is 12:08 in the morning. Now, who is this coming down the street? I don't know, but I was thinking to myself, what am I doing? Well, I stayed on that bus thinking, oh my God, I was really. What would the emotion here be described as? Like I was taking some kind of a very odd risk in trying to meet somebody this way. Well, I got out to her apartment and I got off the bus and I saw that there was a pay phone in the vicinity of her apartment near where I got off the bus. So I thought to myself, okay, I'll call her and let her know I'm here. So I called her from that payphone, and she answered. And when I told her, hey, this is whatever name I was at the time, probably Albert. I wasn't calling myself AJ at that time. Here's how she sounded on the phone. I think this is what she said when I told her who I was. She said, "Don't come up." That's what she said. "Don't come up here," like that. She said that. I said, "Well, I just wanted to say hello, something like that, you know." "No," she said, "no, don't come up. No, I have to go," or something like that. So I thought, Jesus, strange response, but well, got back on the bus and went all the way back downtown to where I lived. Now, we worked together, and she was my supervisor, so, you know, I guess it was the next day. She wasn't angry at me or anything, and, well, that happened. Now, here's what happened next. At that time, I was working a job that I got next door to where I'd been working for 2 years while in graduate school. And when I got my master's degree in September 1978, I got this job with this writer who worked in the office right next door to the office I was in. Okay? And the job was like a secretary job. Secretary receptionist type job. And, well, I was in this office and there was nothing to do. My job was to type up 2 4-page double-spaced typewritten articles that this guy or other people would write for this news agency, okay? He was the editor, so sometimes he wrote the articles, sometimes other journalists wrote articles, and he would like go over them, edit them, and then I would type them up. 2 4-page articles a week? It's just about all I had to do in there? Well, I had been working so hard for 2 years, it was like I didn't have a free moment. I was working so hard from the moment I got up till the moment I went to sleep. Every day for 2 years, so I'm suddenly in this job after all this hard work, and I'm saying, I cannot believe that there's a job like this in reality. Of course, I wasn't getting paid much. You know, I don't know what the pay was, minimal, like $5, $6 an hour, something like that. Just enough to pay my rent and food. I was able to pay my expenses with that amount of money. I was living in a very inexpensive, roach infested apartment about 2 blocks up 15th Street from the Washington Post. Okay, so my job was in the National Press Building, and that's at 14th and F Street. So the Washington Post is like at 15th and M or 15th and L, and that means you're going to walk 1 block to the east over to 14th Street, and then from L Street you're going to walk down however many streets it is, counting the alphabet, down to F. So you're going to walk down, whatever streets those are, okay? After F Street is G, H, I. There's no J Street as far as I can remember. There's a K Street, and then there's an L. So you walk 5 blocks down 14th Street to the National Press Building. And this was an easy walk, and I used to walk it from my apartment to work every day. Well, I'm at this job where this man who's supposed to be the editor there, he rarely came in to his office. He'd call in the morning from his house in suburbia, and he'd say, "Is there any mail?" That's one of the things. When I arrived in the morning, I'd stop at the post delivery place on our floor, and I'd say, "Any mail for our room number?" And they'd hand me a packet of letters or whatever. And I'd go to the office, open it up, and I'd look through there. Usually there'd be some checks for articles that were purchased by newspapers around the United States. And he would ask me, okay, is there any mail? And I'd say there was a check from this and that newspaper. Okay. And he'd say, okay. So he'd say, usually this would be, I'm going to be working at home today. Let me know if there's anything is important happens, you know. And nothing would happen. I hung up, like, I don't know what time I started, let's say 9 o'clock. We hung up, it was like 10 after 9, and then nothing. I was supposed to be 9 to 5, there was nothing in there all day. I'd be in this office, and there was almost no traffic whatsoever of people going past the door. I would open up the door to the office and leave it open. I'd put a stopper on it so it would be open. I could see out into the hall, and there would be nobody walking past that door, okay, at all. So I'm in this office where there's no calls, nothing is happening from the moment I hang up from that phone call till 5 o'clock. I got to type up 2 4-page articles a week. I can do that in like 20 minutes. There had to be no errors, not a single typographical error in those things, but I was a good typist and I could do that. So I'd have my week's work done in like 20 minutes, and the entire rest of the week I'd be sitting in like a tomb. Nothing at all would be happening in there. So with the door propped open the way it was, I could hear my supervisor, my former supervisor at my former place of work, the Washington Bureau of a major American newspaper. She's in the office right next door. Now that office that she was in, the library for this newspaper, it had moved out of the main office area, which was across the hall and down the hall. I don't know, I guess they wanted the space, so for most of those 2 years, I had been inside the main area for this Washington Bureau. The library was in there, so as a copy boy, I would go to the reporters and say, would you like something to eat? Whenever I was supposed to do that, and I would make coffee and serve coffee, this kind of thing. And another thing I did was I cut the AP and UPI newswires, which were always going 24 hours a day, right? And those were print readouts of the news around the world that Associated Press reporters were filing with these news agencies. And these were these teletype machines that were going all day long, and it was like having a tractor in your office, because they were very loud, and well, to try to imitate how they sounded something like this. And they're going all day long like that, okay? Spewing out the news on a long, like, roller of yellow paper. This was two of these machines like this. And my job, part of my job was just take a pair of scissors and cut the length of paper coming out of there on this long tube of paper, then cut it into sheets like a foot long each, and then put what I had cut like on a clipboard in the editor-in-chief's office, and well, that was it. That's where they went. And I made coffee. I asked people what they needed, so what in terms of food and coffee, and then sometimes the reporters would say, here's a what they used in those days was a cassette tape recorder, and they'd hand me that, and they'd say, go to the State Department and record the press conference for me, okay? Or go to the White House, and I would go into the White House and record the press conference, okay? Or go to the National Press Club and record. Go to Congress and record like this. So, and I would take the tape recorder and go there, record the press conference and come back. Also, I would go pick up things. Go to Congress go to Capitol Hill, go to the press room there and pick up this or that. Or go to this or that organization, they got a news release, pick it up and come back here. And I would do things like that. I would take a cab and go there, pick up whatever was needed to be picked up, come back. Okay, so in addition to that, what I did was every day the librarian, this supervisor of mine, she would go through all the major newspapers. This would be the Washington Post, the Washington Star, the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Christian Science Monitor, and I don't know, I may be leaving one or two out. She would go through these every single day, read through them, and she'd pick out articles that she felt that the reporters in the Bureau might find helpful when they're writing their own reports. Because these sources of information were considered to be factual. No one was considered that if you went to one of these news stories for a fact, you needed to know what date or what time something happened, so you go check the story written by another reporter that appears in like the New York Times. You can depend that you got the right information. That's the way it was done in those days. There weren't any computers. So she would mark these articles, and then she'd hand these newspapers with the markings in them. And I'd take a pair of scissors and cut the articles out of the newspapers, take glue in a glue pot, and glue these articles that I'd cut out onto sheets of like typewriter size 8.5 by 11 paper. And then she would take the articles I'd glued onto paper like that and file them. And she'd have me file them. But she didn't let me file things until I was toward the end of my time there, because if anything got misfiled, that was a major problem. Right? In those days, this library was the computer for those reporters. Okay, so when deadline was approaching, when they were writing their articles, they would come into the library if they needed facts to help them with their article, and they would be on deadline pressure, and you would see it in the way they behave. I want this, that, and the other, she would say to her. So she would have to get up and go to her, the many files, it's an entire room of filing drawers, and get the articles that will help this reporter. And they better be there, okay? So she didn't trust me putting those files in there till late in my 2 years there, but she finally did. Now, that was the supervisor that I was now going to begin a friendship with, because I got my master's degree and I'm in this office next door. I've been thinking all the while I was trying to get this master's degree that, hey, I want to be a creative writer. Maybe I can work in the news business like Hemingway and other writers. I'm getting a blank from stage fright right now, but many writers, especially in the 20th century, worked in the news business and also became creative writers. Okay, so this was not unreasonable, and I was thinking, hey, maybe I can do this. So I did get a job, but it was not a job I was happy to get. Nevertheless, I did have this job next door to my librarian friend who'd been in a Nazi concentration camp during World War II, which I must say I did not learn about her until very late in those 2 years. In fact, I'm wondering now if I had already gotten my master's degree by the time I learned that, because I wasn't finding a job like one I wanted, and I was telling her that, I'm leaving here because I can't stay here, or I'm leaving, and this was very upsetting to her. So one day, as I was planning to leave there, she comes in with this. She titled it a Vitae, Vitae at the top of the page, and she handed me that to read. And back at my desk, I read that she's a Nazi concentration camp survivor. She talks about it in this paper, and I'm stunned because I never even suspected it about her. I mean, she was obviously from a foreign land in Eastern Europe, right? And she had a heavy accent, but I never once thought she was Jewish. I knew that. I never once thought, hey, she might have been in a Nazi concentration camp. She was of the age when she was at the age, my parents' age, so I was thinking, I didn't think about it at all. I wasn't thinking about World War II at all in reference to her. Not 1 second. And so I'm reading this thing about World War II experiences described in his Vitae, and I'm stunned. Because this is the first Nazi concentration camp survivor I've ever personally met. And I gotta say that in my personal life, that horrific event made a very deep impact on me. Now, this is just private to me. I didn't talk about this with other people. Never. This was just a private, thing with me, okay? Where I felt this was an offense that it personally affected me somehow, so that it meant that much to me to make sure that I would be a kind of protector, if I could, of these people who suffered that way. This was my private world, not discussed with others. Now, so when I see this is a person who'd been there suddenly, she wanted me to be friends with her and so on. She was trying to be my friend, and so I was saying I was going to leave there and everything. Suddenly I said to myself, oh my God, this is a person worth knowing, because I didn't have any friends at all. I couldn't find a job, and I was now 25 years old, or 24, 25, and well, in the movie Batman Begins, at the beginning of that movie, I'm not trying to compare myself to Bruce Wayne, right? But I'm just trying to give an idea of where I was in my life. At the beginning there, Bruce Wayne is in a prison in Asia somewhere, and he's fighting all kinds of people in the prison, and he's put in a solitary cell as a result of this fight that he's having with the other prisoners. And this guy shows up in the cell, offering him a path out of that prison. Okay, and the guy says to him, he says, whatever your original idea of what you might have been wanting to do with exploring this world that you found yourself in, you are by now truly lost. And that's where I was. Whatever I had been doing in my life, I want to get the master's degree, I want to get a job in journalism, I want to be a creative writer. By the time I was 25 years old, there's no friend, there's no woman, there's no job, there's no anything. So by that time I was truly lost. So here's this woman here, who I liked from the moment I met her. Okay, my first day at this place, when I'm introduced to her, she has me sit at a desk right behind her, and I'm there a few minutes, and she turns around in her chair and smiles at me in a really nice way, like I'm family for her. It's a beautiful smile. And you know what she asked me? She's got a camera in her hand. She says, "Can I take your picture?" I thought she wants to take, I said, yeah, go ahead. She takes my picture there at work. She's so happy to meet me. So that's how things started off with her. Very nice lady, right? I liked her from the start. And of course, have anything to do with her in the way of a sexual affair, this never crossed my mind. And even at the end there, when she was hinting these kind of things, I was thinking, well, there's no way anything like that's going to happen with her. This lady's 27 years older than I am. Okay, so I read this. She's in a concentration camp, so now I've changed. I'm truly lost. And like Bruce Wayne, I'm not saying that I'm Bruce Wayne. I'm just saying this is a similar pattern of the way things develop. This guy says, okay, there's a blue flower growing on the slopes. Bring this blue flower up the mountain and you may find what you're looking for there. Well, this lady here is offering me a kind of friendship with this Vitae, and so not long after that, I brought her a flower. On my way to work one morning, I stopped at a flower shop and I bought a white carnation, one white carnation. I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing? And when I got to work, I put the white carnation in a little glass with some water on her desk. Okay, so I brought her the blue flower. All right, so I'm saying that I rode the bus out to her house and I got that response. He'll come up. He'll come up. I said, okay. And I hung up. Well, no problems at work. And so, as I said, I was working at the office next door, and I said to myself, my God, I'm in here all day long, and there's nothing going. There's not even anybody passing by the door here. Okay, no calls on the phone, no nothing all day for 8 hours a day. So, after a few months of that, I said to myself, look, I'm just gonna go home at like, I don't know, 9:30 a.m. My apartment was like 5-6 blocks away, like a 10-minute walk. I'm just gonna go home and work on a novel. To hell with this. And that's how I started doing that. In springtime, what do you think? It would have been 1979. And, well, between winter and spring 1979. And as I'm in my apartment writing this novel, it was getting to around the time when I knew she would go home from work. And I think, my God, I'm writing this novel. I'm completely alone in the world. So my apartment was at 16th Street, where 16th Street passes under Scott Circle. So you stuck your head out the window of my room, you can see the White House down the street. Okay, down 16th Street. And I'd be writing my novel, and then suddenly I started to get this overwhelming need to do something about this friendship. So you know what I did? I decided, hey, you know what I'll do? I'll just go down to whatever street it was, Connecticut Avenue or whatever, it's just a few blocks down, and get on the bus. I know she'll be riding home. Okay? And I did that. And the first time I did it, I didn't tell her I was going to do that. Okay? I went down. I probably ran because I would deliberate in my mind, thinking, "Wait a minute, I'm not going to do this." And then, I see it's my clock. That bus is about to leave. So I would grab my coat and run down to Connecticut Avenue and wait for that bus. Well, the first time I did it, I got on that bus and I start walking down the aisle thinking, when is she going to be on this bus? And there she was. So I walked down the aisle, the seat was empty next to her. I said, "Can I sit here?" She says, "Go ahead." So we talked all the way to her stop at the dividing line between Maryland and the DC. She got off, I got off. She went to her car, drove home. I got on a bus and went back downtown. Well, I started doing this regularly, and every single time I did it, she was on that bus. There wasn't a single time when I ran down there to get on that bus that I got on there and she wasn't there. And we sat and talked. Okay? She didn't have any problem with that at all. We had great talks all the way. It's like as I recall, it was like a 40-minute bus ride where I got on the bus to where she got off to get her car. So we had plenty of time to talk, and we talked the whole way. So our friendship developed to the point where occasionally I'd say to her, can I ride the bus with you today? Okay? Because I was in the office next door where nothing was happening. So it was an excuse to go down to her office and talk to her for a few minutes. And I'd say, hey, can I ride the bus with you? And so one day she says to me, I have my car here today. So I said, well, can I ride with you in your car? She said, yeah. So we get in her car, and she drove past where she usually stopped to pick up her car, and she went to her apartment. And that's when our relationship started as an affair. Well, this long story, and I don't know how long it is. It looks like it's over 20 minutes. Oh, it's over 30 minutes. Well, fine. I'm out here in my trailer thinking, okay, I'm now in my 70s, okay, and I'm thinking, I'm going to meet a woman who's about, I don't know, 20 to 30 years younger than I am, or 40, maybe. What do you think? Maybe even 40 years younger than I am. I don't know what her age is, and so I don't know how to meet her, so I'm coming out to my trailer at night, when it looks like she might be driving by, and a car went by. And usually I check the time, but I didn't tonight because I actually got a film. It's on this video here. It's on, it should be there that you see the car driving by. Well, there hasn't been a single other car down the street. So usually these cars go by at symbolic time moments where I can see this symbolic message here. So who is this? Is it this woman I'm wanting to meet? Or is it somebody else? I don't know. Anyway, this is kind of like a repetition of what I did way back in the late 1970s to get into a relationship. However, I am now an old man and I am not wanting a relationship like the one I had with this woman who was a concentration camp survivor. I don't want another relationship like that. If I have a relationship, I want the relationship to be marriage. And I want the woman to be my zivra. Translated soulmate. I don't want just anybody, okay? I don't want an affair, a woman on the side. I don't want any of that. I want a woman I bring into my marriage. I'm married, but I'm not in Judaism, so I'm a single man. However, I want a three-way marriage. Me, my wife, and this woman. That's what I want. And I'm not accepting anything else. I'm not accepting an affair. I'm not accepting a sexual liaison. I'm not interested in sex like that. I'm not interested in anything other than what I just said. A three-way marriage. Me, my wife, and this woman. We're all three of us married together. And it's what? It's what's meant when you use the word zivrog in Judaism, meaning it's the greatest relationship a man and woman can find with each other in this life. The best translation might be true love. This is true love between soulmates. So I'm saying, even though technically I'm not married, I am married to my wife, and we are one, as people say, right? We become one, we're one person. I'm not just me, I'm me and her, okay? So the woman who comes into the marriage, when she marries me, she's marrying my wife, because me, I don't exist. I exist as me and my wife. We are one. She likes me, she likes my wife too. So that's how this works. So I don't want another, like what I had with the woman when I was 25. I don't want that. I'm not accepting that. But in search of my zivrog, I'm here. In the middle of the night, seeing if this will bring about a meeting. I don't know if it will, because I don't even know who's going by. And, well, I guess I'll do this until something happens or doesn't happen. I don't know what to say about it. I'm making these videos as my only attempt to reach out to this person because all these videos are for her. No offense to anybody out there, but I gotta say, no one's looking at these videos because when I look online on my phone, it says 0 views. And occasionally 1 view, and occasionally, more rarely than the 1 view, which is rare, 2 views. So who's looking, who's driving by, I don't know. But my quest is real. And my quest began at first consciousness in this life and has continued till now. So this quest is important to me. In fact, this quest is what my life on this earth is all about. It's all about this quest. So that's where I am tonight. This is the wee hours of 3rd of July, 2026. And presently the time is 12. I got it digitally on these watches here. Says here, it's 12:41 a.m. Bye for now.